Hello and welcome to my spoiler talk for Bayonetta. This is the place where you can talk anything and everything about the game of choice, and the game of choice today is Bayonetta. That means in the comments below, you can talk about anything and everything. Even if I do not cover it here in the spoiler talk, feel free to definitely bring it up and have those conversations below. I'd love to have the conversation with you guys about that stuff. And if you're a person that is looking for a non-spoiler coverage of Bayonetta, I highly recommend you check out my spoiler-free review of Bayonetta, and I will put that link in the video description below. If not, check out my channel, Freeze Frame Rate, and it'll be on there as well. Now, let's get started right away because there's a lot of interesting things to talk about in this game. And there was a spot where I do want to talk about slightly because there's just, it's something that just made it very different and added some variety to the game, and it wasn't the normal fighting mechanics. It had you riding a rocket. It showed really how crazy the game really was and how wacky and stylish it was by having you as Bayonetta riding a rocket to get to, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong and I'm just bad at it, Isla del Sol. And I was not surprised by this like wackiness. It kind of was teasing that, and then there's another thing we'll talk about that kind of I expected something like this maybe to happen, but it was really fun. It was really special, and it really captures how this game is, it's very much of a game of wacky and crazy, but yet mechanics and kind of old school arcadey all at the same time. And throughout that actual section, I actually enjoyed that section a lot. I think it had a lot of the flying was really good, and the shooting and the dodging with it worked out really well to the point where it actually felt natural. And I think it was this one was a good side mode. Now there is another one that came into play that I felt like didn't work as well, and that is driving the motorcycle. It was fun. It really was. It was fun for a bit. And I think the thing that really pulled it back and really just didn't make it work as amazingly well, one, I think the level was way too long for how much it doesn't make you do very much. For me, I mean, if I didn't play the level correctly, because I'm about to explain how I kind of played the level, and if I didn't play it correctly, then the game did a really bad job of trying to encourage you to figure out how to play that level. But literally, I was just holding up and speeding as fast as possible through the whole thing, and literally just dodging. I didn't even shoot my like motorcycle gun. I barely shot the weapon. I literally just did the cool. It was a cool mechanic of the dodge was kind of like putting the motorcycle sideways on the ground and kind of sliding. That was really cool. I liked that part. But that was all I was doing, and so it was a long time of doing that, and I didn't know if I was supposed to. I wasn't sure if you were supposed to be killing the enemies as you're passing them by, and that's how you get the points. It just really didn't. It wasn't really clear. Where the rocket one, where you can't speed up past them, so it makes you understand, okay, the whole point of that rocket mechanic is you have to shoot down the enemies while they're passing by you, and if you don't get them all, that's fine, as long as you're dodging, you're still alive. But in the motorcycle, because you can control your speed and you can just fly past them, it really didn't show if you were supposed to really be like fighting them, and I think that's where it kind of fell a little bit short, also because it was super short. And again, the sliding was super fun and it felt great, but the other part was it felt really arcadish, which has its good points but also has its its bad. And again, it made the game feel more aged than, like, the rocket mechanic was a good way of being arcadic yet still being a fun thing to play and didn't feel dated. It was dated, and you could tell it was, but it just didn't feel like it was a clunky control. Where here on the motorcycle, I felt like it was clunky control. And so they have to clean that up. I really wish they cleaned that up a little bit better. Now, getting to like the two big revelations in the game, let's get right down to them. And one of them, they were interesting, yet I felt like wasted efforts. And how to explain these. So one, when you find out that you were born from a sage father and your mother was an Umber witch, and that you were an outcast was a cool, interesting way of telling the story. And I think obviously it plays on tropes like a lot of movies do, of two sides that are supposed to be apart from each other come together, and now that person's an outcast. But the only thing was that during the game, I was only seeing Umber moves. Now, I know she was kind of taken in by the Umber witches, but we really didn't see Lumen Sage material out of her. And isn't that the thing that should make her special? Or like during the game, you should find out like you're getting different powers that is like unreal to like Umbra witches, and then Jean would tell you, hey, that's not normal for an Umbra witch near the end of the game or something like that. But it just it really didn't make sense, because like you're telling them, oh, you were part of two sides, but you only have the powers of an Umbra witch. So you should have had both powers, and you should have either you sprinkled in the Lumen Sage powers in there somewhere that made you question to go, why is she having these abilities? And then you would make you hit go bam, oh, that's why she has those abilities, because her father is a sage. That would make total sense, but it just didn't work, and it was a wasted opportunity. It was a great thought that just didn't process into the game correctly, and then that's where I feel when people have these great thoughts and they put them in the games but don't execute them correctly, that's where I hold them accountable for it. And this is one they fell short on. And then the other big one was that she found out that her father was Father Ballard, and who is your final opponent, not final opponent. And again, that was another wasted moment. Now, the only reason why I say it was a wasted moment was because you're Bayonetta trying to discover your past the whole time, but yet when you were discovering your memories, you had no memories discovering of your father or your mother. And if it was you discovering memories of your father and then finding out that he was your father and he was trying to bring you here to do things all along, but it's just, it didn't work because you didn't have any connection. You're just like, oh, well, what makes you different than some random dude I just beat up a minute ago? Like, it didn't change anything for me. It was supposed to make an impact. You could tell it was supposed to make an impact. They wouldn't save it to the end if it wasn't going to make an impact that they felt like it. But just here's the other part of the argument in my non-spoiler talk when I talked about gaining back your memories. If you were gaining back memories of your father and seeing how the impact of her father was in her life, and then finding out that, oh, my father's been behind this thing all along, that would make total sense. That would make the moment so much better. That would have made the moment worth it. But literally, you could replace the guy and say he's not your father, and nothing would have changed in regards to the game, because it didn't change the emotion of the character. And then why, if you're not doing it, why are you, like, the whole point is is character development, and it did nothing for her character development. You just found out he's a sage, the last sage. Okay, but you're gonna kill him anyways, so it doesn't matter. Sometimes those moments are, and it's just like, again, I fully understand where, like, characters, when you throw them into flashbacks, it didn't also work with I'm gonna pronounce her name wrong. I totally forgot it. I think it's Jean. And it didn't work for her either. It didn't, because again, like, you had memories of her fighting her, but you had one memory of their friendship where she shared something with you, but that's it. That's all their entire friendship is. And so again, it didn't work. You didn't have the development of her memories to meet this person, and then eventually you go, oh, that's her. That was the person that I've been seeing in my memories the whole time. No, it was just one small memory, and then one memory of you fighting her. Like, what? How important is that? Like, why you fighting them? That doesn't represent your friendship. It just didn't make sense. It didn't work, and that's where I said, like, it can work. It really can. If you focus on a character and have their memories grow with that character, then that bond with that character, when you see them again in the present time, will work so much better, because it makes such more of an impact. And I think this is where it fell short. This game wanted to make a bunch of impacts in the story, and it just didn't happen because you're getting your memories, but it wasn't about the important people in your life. It was about trying to solve a small mystery of why she's stabbing you. But she wasn't stabbing you. She was giving you the oh gosh, I think it's the right eye. Oh, it's one of the eyes. I keep forgetting those slight details, so sorry about that. If it's the left eye, correct me. It's one of the eyes. Gave her one of the eyes, but it looked like she stabbed her. But it's just, again, it was. They should have moved the flashbacks not about the eye. They should have moved the flashbacks about the memories of the people. So then those character moments made more impact, and again made Bayonetta more relatable, which she wasn't as much in this first game. Now, Cereza. So talking about Cereza, when you first meet her, I call this probably, again, like I talked about how the story just, it fell short. It like had a lot of good things set up, and it just didn't execute correctly. And here's the other thing: when you meet Cereza, automatically you can see she looks exactly like Bayonetta if Bayonetta was a kid. So on top of that, she had a sucker in like one level after you met her, and she was clinging on the doll and giving it a nickname, the nickname that she was given Luca through the entire game before she even met Cereza, the little girl, not knowing who her name is. She was literally, they both were naming Cereza was naming her doll that, and Bayonetta was naming Luca that. How did Bayonetta not catch that? Like, literally, Cereza is saying it in front of her face. Like, this is a giant plot hole here. Like, how does she miss it? Why doesn't Bayonetta go, wait, why are you calling it that nickname? I call things that nickname too. Oh. Like, it again, doesn't make sense. If she wanted to gain her memories back, that's like a key thing, is like, you have something that I correlate with. Let's talk about it and try to figure out so I can get my memories back. But no, like, it was just like, oh, wipe it away. And so the other part is just, the other part was like the wasted effort of having Cereza there to just have her follow her around, and then eventually was going to lead her to her father, which doesn't make sense because, well, I mean, it makes sense, but Bayonetta was already going to go to him. Like, it didn't even matter if Cereza was leading him there. So it was a pointless, like, it was a whole pointless subplot, unless, like, Cereza had more of an impact of, like, her understanding herself more, but she didn't really until the very, very end. So it just, again, like, these were, I enjoyed this game very, very much, and I liked the story elements they were going with, but there are just a lot of faults in the story, and when you're trying to do a story about gaining your memories back, that just, it just doesn't work, and it falls flat, and it just doesn't make the impact that it should, because this story could have been an amazing story. Like, the lore here is great. I think the lore is intriguing. I am really excited to play the sequel because of the lore, like that, and the combat. The combat's a lot of fun. But the story here just was confusing, was falling flat, had a bunch of plot holes, and just was not cohesive, and it should have been. And if it was, it would have made that game top tier. And this is where it makes me question, why in the world is this game getting 9s across the board? Yes, the fighting is tight. I do have issues with the fighting mechanics in this game, but there's a lot of elements that they put in this game that just is so falling flat that it's just, why? I don't get it. So, but anyways, again, like, I enjoyed the game. There's a lot of plot holes. We basically covered a lot of the plot holes that I had. But let's get to the really cool stuff, which I think there are just amazing bosses in this game. And I talked about it in my non-spoiler review for Bayonetta, that I was going to do my own top bosses, because, like, bosses are just a great impact to the game, and it reminded me of God of War 3 with the scale. And so here are my top 3 final bosses, and this includes the final boss and what I consider the final boss. These are my top 3 favorite bosses, and I'll kind of explain why. So And if I pronounce these wrong, I apologize. They really don't pronounce them in the game. You just look at the writing and you try to pronounce it the best way you can. So number 3, and it is in order by my favorites in top 3. So number 3 is Sapita. I probably pronounced that completely wrong. And so this is a creature that was in the water, and you fell off the plane, and you were kind of riding on a surfboard and fighting, which was cool. It changed the pace. I liked that. I liked that a lot. Mixes up the gameplay, feels fresh, makes you try new things, and when you're flipping on the board, or I think it was like a piece of the plane, to be honest, when you're flipping on that to dodge. It was cool. It was just kind of flashy. It had some style to it. And when I talked about how this game has a lot of style to it, that's one right there. Like doing a funky flip to dodge when you're on a board is funky fresh. And then the other cool part that I liked about it was the summoning of the spider. It was so perfect. The way you took down the opponent at the end, of where you were kind of funneled into a circular wave of some kind, like kind of like a typhoon internally under the water. And so there's only an entrance behind you, behind the opponent, or behind you. And the way you trapped it and made that typhoon, turned it into a spider web at the bottom and traps the opponent down and then sends your spiders out, was so unique and cool. And it was a creative way to involve a cool summoning and kind of make sense in relativity to why Bayonetta was summoned that specific creature. And that was really special. And it really worked. It really did. I loved it. And it was just a lot of fun. I enjoyed that one. So number 2, Fortitudo. Now, he's the first one you face off as right away. He has wings, 2 dragon heads, and a face right in the stomach area. And he was cool. I liked that one a lot as well. It was cool to kind of hop around. This is where it was a good start, and I think that's why it made such an impact for me, because it set the great tone that this game had in regards to its bosses. Like when you hopped around and then you ended up doing your climax for a couple sequences, you're literally throwing them around like a rag doll. You are like this tiny, and the guy is like this huge, and you're taking him and you're chucking him, like literally throwing him across the map. You're throwing him around like a rag doll, and it just makes you feel powerful. And it really just set up for what the game really was. And that was like the first major boss in the game, and it just really set everything up right, and it made it feel like you were the super powerful witch, and that no one was going to get in your way to getting to the goal that you desired, which was really amazing and really showed what the character of Bayonetta stood for at that moment. And it just sets you up, my quote unquote is, it sets you up for a wild ride that you're in for. Now, for the final, my favorite boss in Bayonetta 1 is Temperantia. This boss, this is the boss that really reminded me of Scale. And for God, that when I said that quote, it reminded me of God of War 3. This is the boss that reminded me of that specifically. And it was, you're at the airport area, and it's a creature that has it's basically like a human body with a face and its stomach, no head. And it was just really interesting because you were kind of like your own platform, and you were fighting it. And then the part that made me feel the scale is once you took out its fingers and its hands, you were actually able to hop onto him and crawl on him to be able to destroy certain centers of his body, to destroy him and himself. So it really worked that way, and it really was fresh and new, and I really liked it in that sense. It just worked, and it really showed scale. Like I said, it really reminded me of God of War, that you're climbing on this creature to beat it up. And it kind of was cool that they had their own little defense systems that were guarding its center core. And then the funniest part that I found out of all of it that made me laugh so hilariously, which was I didn't expect it, because it was still early in the game. You're still trying to figure out like, yeah, Bayonetta's funny because she's like, I don't care, and these guys are like talking like evil villains, and she's just like, whatever, you talk too much, I'm gonna smack you. She was like laying on the griffin statue while it's like whirling around because he created a tornado, and so she's just chilling on it, just having sucker. And then half kind of like partway through his discussion, she just decides to try to stab him in the face. Like, it was priceless. It was like, enough talk, I'm just gonna, hit you right in the face. Why not? Let's see what happens. So it was the charismatic part that kind of really got me, and I liked it, and it just, that made me like the character a lot more. So that is my top 3 bosses. Now, I cannot end this spoiler talk without talking about the biggest one of them all, which is the final boss that you face off in. And literally, I did think I was done with the game when I faced the first final boss. And to be honest, I looked at reviews before. Obviously, Bayonetta's been out for a while, and I looked at some reviews for Bayonetta. And one of the reviews I listened to mentioned that the final boss was in scale, like out of this world type scale. And when I was playing it, I was like, I guess the only thing that was really making it feel out of this world was there was a satellite trying to shoot you down. But I don't know if that was what they were talking about because I was playing this, since I played this game, it was like scale is a really big component of this game. But then when the final boss appeared, I was like, I get what they mean now. Literally, I get what they mean. So facing that final boss was interesting, because like, the thing was huge. I mean, the thing was the size of the planet. And when you're fighting, and I'm gonna name it as Jubilis. To be honest, I was not that impressed, though. I really wasn't impressed by the final boss, because I faced all these bigger opponents before. I mean, not bigger. They were smaller, but yet big. I faced them throughout the entire game, so it just was like nothing new to me in regards to like the scale part. And I guess the only thing that was kind of different was one of the I don't want to call it parts. I'll call it parts. One of the parts of fighting the boss is when they turn the stage into an elemental part, and you have to dodge it, so you can use witch time to kind of jump to different spots to whack. I don't know if you want to call it wings. I would call it wings because she was using it to fly, but then she was using it to hurt you too. So I'm not sure what exactly they were. There were faces on it, but you would hop around and whack those faces. And so it was kind of interesting to see the different elements. And I do have to mention one part that was I did not expect. One of her attacks turned you into Cereza as a child, which I was extremely surprised by. I was like, what? And then I'm like, crap, I am screwed. I'm going to get hit. And the worst part was I couldn't figure out how to dodge it. I was trying so hard to like run away from it, turn into like the Panther mode, which Panther mode, super cool, like it a lot. But turning into Panther mode, running around, trying to dodge it, but it was so fast, it just never came together. It never worked. It never worked out. But I have to say, the way you kill that opponent is awesome. Smacking it across the Milky Way and trying to knock it into the sun. Now, to be honest, I didn't know if I was supposed to be... the one part I didn't know is I was supposed to be dodging the planets, or could I run into them and it was just causing more damage as it was impacting the planets. So when I hit the planet, I had to redo it, unfortunately. But the second time I did it around, it was really easy to dodge all the planets and then ride it right into the sun. There's nothing more satisfying than that. The only thing is that wouldn't the sun explode and we all be dead? Who knows? So, it was kind of fun. I enjoyed that very, very much. And then the final ending where you're at the graveyard. To be honest, I did think Bayonetta was actually dead. I did, but I knew there was a sequel, so maybe she came back from the dead. I don't know what the story was. They don't cover much in the story part for Bayonetta 2 in the reviews, so they didn't explain very much. But I actually did think for a minute she was dead, and then when she came back, I was like, okay, she's not dead. Now, I I mean, that is it. That is my review for Bayonetta, but spoiler talk as well. So I do want to let you know that it is the game is fun. Yes, it's still a lot of fun. Is there still major problems? Absolutely, there are major problems in this game. There are some fighting mechanic problems that I talk about in my spoiler-free review of the game that really held it back a little bit. It was still a lot of fun. Again, still a lot of fun. Would I pay $60 for this game? Absolutely not. I would never pay $60, especially because this is an older game. I'm still working on Bayonetta 2 right now, which I am enjoying. I'm actually enjoying it a lot more than the first one, so I can't wait to talk about it in my spoiler and non-spoiler reviews for Bayonetta 2. But basically, like, I would not pay for this one game, like Bayonetta 1. I wouldn't pay more than $20 to $30 for it, really, to be honest. And especially because you only get that 10 hours, 10, 11 hours of actual gameplay in it if you just want to play it once. If you're going to play it multiple times and you're that kind of person, yeah, pay $60 for it. But as a person that doesn't play those types of games often, I would not pay $60 for this one game. So that is my spoiler talk for Bayonetta. What did you think about the game? And let me know in the comments below. And remember that because we're in spoiler talk, you can talk about anything in regards to the game, even if I didn't cover it here in the spoiler talk, because there's a lot that I didn't cover. Feel free to let us know in the comments below. We'd love to have that conversation with you guys. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. And if you want to keep up with the content I'm releasing each and every week here on Freeze Frame Rate, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. My name is Mitch. I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll say see you soon.